can be discussed with respect to Babul Hawaij. Quite a few I will postpone it to the majlis of the Shahadat. But as for tonight, and with the short time that we've got, a brief indication, inclination, explanation of an important point with regards to his Wiladat, because I'm not sure how many people are aware of this. Not even the kids, even the elders might have not be very aware of the details in terms of the Wiladat of the seventh Imam. And then after that explanation, one little paygam, one little explanation that comes from one of the rulings of the Imam that I want to explain to you, which forms one of the fundamentals of our aqaid, and especially in today's times when our Imam is not present before us, he's a ghaib. So inshallah, give me 10-15 minutes, and then we will go into the fast forward mode. The seventh Imam, Imam Kazim alayhi salam, was born in the year 128 Hijri. But more than the year 128 Hijri is the place where he was born. The place by the name of Abwa. Abwa is a place between Makkah and Medina, and he was born over there. This place, Abwa, is a very important place with regards to the Islamic history. And the reason is that every Imam, including the Holy Prophet, would make it a point to visit Abwa. The reason is this, that we need to go back in history to know the particular rank of this place called Abwa. It is around 29 kilometers from Juhfa of today, between Makkah and Medina. Before the entire prophethood of the Holy Prophet, when the time Bani Hashim were there, and the time of Hazrat Abdullah alayhi salam, the father of the Holy Prophet, he would go on trade expeditions to various parts. And they would be living in Makkah. Bani Hashim, Bani Umayyad, all that history was concentrated around Makkah. In one of his trips, Hazrat Abdullah, which was the father of the Holy Prophet, he happened to go out of Medina in one of his business trips. And for some reason, the Mashiach of God, he reaches Medina and he passes away in Medina. And then he's buried in Medina. So the whole family, the Bani Hashim, are in Mecca. The Prophet's father, Hazrat Abdullah, is buried in Medina. Now when the Prophet is born, the mother of the Holy Prophet, Hazrat Amina used to take care of the child, and 6 years when the Prophet was of age, she passes away. But how she passes away is this. She was 30 years of age at that time. She was in Makkah, and because her husband Hazrat Abdullah was buried in Medina, she had gone for the ziyarat of her husband to Medina. Having done the ziyarat, she was coming back to Makkah, and she reached Abwa. And that's where she passed away. And that's where she was buried. And that is the reason that from the Holy Prophet till Imam Zamana, everybody would make it a point to visit Abwa, because that was the mother of the Holy Prophet. We have historical reports that the Holy Prophet numerous times visited Abwa to pay respects and do ziyarat of his mother. At the time of Sulh Hudaybiyah, before going to Sulh Hudaybiyah, he went there. At the time of Fath Makkah, he was there. Numerous occasions he would make it a point. Now, how is this related to the seventh Imam? The seventh Imam was born, and it was not just the Holy Prophet. All the Imams would make it a point to do ziyarat of Janab Amina, obviously grandmother of all the Imams. So they would make it a point to go to Abba and do ziyarah. We go to our Qabristan to do ziyarat of our grandparents. Would they not go with the lady of Janab Amina's caliber, the mother of the Holy Prophet? It was in one of these trips of the sixth Imam, when he was going to Medina, he went to the ziyarat of his grandmother and went to Abwa, and that was the point, and that was the time when Imam Kazim alayhi salam was born. And that's the reason he was born in Abwa. And that is where Abwa becomes very important. not only because of the birthplace of the seventh Imam, but the reason was that Imam Sadiq al-Islam had gone for Hajj on the way back, or in one of his trips to Medina. On the way back, he went to Abwa, and that is where his wife delivered, and Imam Kazim al-Islam was born. So the place of birth of Imam Kazim al-Islam becomes significant with regards to Abwa. Now, Abwa has another history in terms of ghazawat of the Holy Prophet and a few incidences that took place with regards to Bani al-Abbas. But right now we are not interested. We are focusing on the seventh Imam. Before I go into that pagham and that message of that aqidah that is one of the fundamental aqidas of the aqaid of the Shiite faith, there's one aspect I want to explain to you. You see, one of the problems that the Ahl al-Tasannun and in fact all the other groups of the Muslims have with the Shiites is that one of our beliefs, amongst all our beliefs, one of the beliefs is that we believe all the Imams, the Ma'asumeen, are superior to all the prophets except the Holy Prophet. That is our aqidah. And it is not something out of emotion or sentiments. We've got traditions. Pick up the book Kitab al-Hujjah of Usul al-Kafi and you know what I'm talking about. This is our categorical faith from the Prophet, from the Imams, from every of the Masumin, that all our Masumeens are superior to all the Anbiya, including Musa, Isa, Ulul Azm, except the Holy Prophet. The only individual amongst the Nabi who's superior to the Imams are the Holy Prophet. Having understood this, the problem that the other sects cannot comprehend is how is it that a person who's a non-Nabi can be superior to a Nabi? And we've got numerous proofs. We've got numerous proofs. We got one proof, two simple proofs of two ayats that you know. One is ayat tathir, one is ayat mubahala. But right now we are not proving that. From ayat tathir we can prove the superiority of the Ma'asumeen over all the other Anbiyas, except the Holy Prophet. From ayat mubahala and the incident of mubahala, we can prove the superiority of the Imams over all the Anbiya except the Holy Prophet. So always keep in mind, when we say above and superior to all the Anbiya, we're not putting the Holy Prophet in it. He's separate. He's the best of the creation of God. So he's not in part of the equation. But one incident took place in the life of Imam Kazim al-Islam that has a resemblance to one of the Nabi before him. And the consequence of what happens gives you an indication of the rank between a Nabi and with respect to one of the Imams. And the similarity is between two individuals, one individual, a Nabi, and the second individual, Imam Kazim al-Islam. Kazim al-Islam is one individual. The second Nabi that I'm talking about is Hazrat Yusuf al-Islam. Now they've got a point of distinction and a point of intersection. The point of intersection is that both of these Imams, both of these leaders, both of these Hujjat of God, they fell into prison because of one reason. Because of somebody's love for them. Because of somebody's love for them, they had to go to prison. Hazrat Yusuf went into prison because of the love of Zulaykha and the Azizul Misr. You know that, yeah? What happened? The entire incident about Hazrat Yusuf and Zulaykha and the likes, all of us know what happened. Because of that liking of that particular lady towards Yusuf became the reason that he was put into prison. And similarly, probably we might discuss it in the time of the Shahadat of the seventh Imam, the reason that Imam Kazim was put into prison, and you know that half of his life went into prison. And that is not a rhetorical statement or metaphorical statement. Literally half of his life went. The last 4 years of his life was constantly in prison. And that's why we've got Tariq saying, La yazalu yantaqalu min sijnin ila sijnin. Constantly in the last 4 years, he would constantly move from prison to prison, prison to prison. The last 4 years were constantly in prison. So we've got two Hujjat of God. One going to prison because of love of a lady. Imam Kazim was put into prison because of the threat perceived by the Bani al-Umayyah Bani al-Abbas at that time, because of the love of the people towards Imam Kazim alayhi salam. Harun Rashid perceived a threat to his Khilafat because of the love of the people towards Imam Kazim alayhi salam. And let me tell you one thing. The imamat of Imam Kazim al-Islam is the maximum imamat of all the imams. Leave aside the Imam Zamana. That's going for 1200 years. But amongst all the other imams, the maximum imamat is that of Imam Kazim al-Islam, which is 34 years. The next comes the fourth Imam and the sixth Imam, Imam Sajjad alayhi salam and Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, which is 33 years. So the maximum is 34 years of Imam Kazim alayhi salam. The love that the people had towards Imam Kazim alayhi salam became a threat to Harun, as a result of which we have that report that says, La yazalu yantaqalu min sijnin ila sijnin. He would constantly be moved from prison to prison, prison to prison. Some of the details, inshallah, in the time of the Shahadat. But I want to explain one very subtle point that took place with Yusuf that differentiates the Anbiya with the Aimma. So you know what happened with Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam. He was put into prison. You know what happened with Imam Kazim alayhi salam. He was put into prison. But there is a consequence that differentiates between them. And that consequence is this. In the prison, Hazrat Yusuf sees two individuals, and they come to him that we've seen a certain dream. Can you decipher? Now, we don't not going into detail because the topic is this not month of Ramadan that we want to talk about akhlaqiyat of Hazrat Yusuf alayhi salam. This is a link just to show you that how, in a very simple tone, we can understand the difference between a Nabi and a Masoom, that is imam that we talk about, and why the superiority is there. So, these two people come and say, we saw a certain dream. He saw a certain dream, and can you explain to us what it is? So Hazrat Yusuf gives them the explanation that, look, let me pull out that surah. Surah Yusuf, Surah 12. This is 40. 42. Yes. So here it says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Surah number 12 of Surah Yusuf, ayah number 41. Ya sahibai sijna, amma ahadukuma fayasqi rabbahu khamra, wa amma al-akharu fayuslabu fata'kulu at-tayru min ra'sihi, qudiya al-amru alladhi fihi tastaftiyan. You have asked me about this particular dream as to what is the ta'wil and the tafsir and the ta'bir of this dream. Out of these two, one of them will become, I'm putting it in simple words without going into literal translation. One of you is going to be freed, is going to serve as a special servant of the Khalifa, and the other one will be killed in such a way that birds will feed from his head. That means he'll be killed. When this was done, then the next verse says something that happens after that. And that is the difference between a Nabi and an Imam. Once he says that to him, exactly that's how it happens. Within a short time, the rule comes from the Khalifa that get those two people to me. I need to meet them. As soon as it was received by them that they need to be taken to the Khalifa, they realized the ta'bir of Hazrat Yusuf is coming out correctly. One of them is going to be killed and one of them is going to be saved. Now Hazrat Yusuf, based on the ta'bir of the Khab, realized that one of them, this person is going to be killed and this person is going to be saved. Quran says, look, in Surah Yusuf, verse number 42, as soon as these two people were going to be taken out, Hazrat Yusuf realized that this one is going to be killed, this one is going to be saved. So he turns to the person who's going to be saved, and Quran says, brings out that discussion, that talk, and puts it into the Quran to tell us something. It says, وَقَالَ لِلَّذِي ظَنَّ أَنَّهُ نَاجٍ مِّنْهُمَا. And Hazrat Yusuf said to that individual whom he felt would be the person who will be saved and not killed, Udhkurni inda rabbika. When you go there to the Khalifa, just tell him that I've been here for so many years in the prison. Puran zamana mein kya hota, these Khalifa, they were at the whims of their caprices, and it was very whimsical. They would get angry and say, Dal dos zindan mein. And when they would go into the prison, then they were forgotten. It was not that gone into the prison, okay, kal lekar aao, phir hum baat karenge, kya masla hua. Ek martaba gussa ho gaya. Ek martaba tax nahi bharte, dal do zindan mein. Ab wo zindan mein chala gaya, when the person has gone into prison, now there is no coming back. Till somebody comes and reminds him, Ya Khalifat al-Muslimin, you've put him into prison. Oh, did I put him into prison? So many times it has happened. Out of anger, we put him into prison. And that person would languish for years, and somebody said, Baba, that person is in prison. For what? Because you said to you put him into prison. Did I put him into prison? Yeah, you were angry. Baba, that was just anger. Bring him out. How many years? 5 years. For what? For nothing. I send him home. That's how it would be. It was a one-man show. So here, Hazrat Yusuf now is for several years in the prison. Now he's realizing one person is going to be saved. So he's telling them, when you go, just tell the Khalifa, Yusuf is there. He's not done anything. The child gave evidence in his favor. The ladies have turned back and said he's okay. bring him out. Just remind him about me, that Yusuf, an innocent person, is inside. You don't have to do anything. Probably he will realize and remember that, oh yeah, he's put me inside because it is a fault of his wife or the women folk, and he'll bring me back. Just tell him Yusuf is still there inside. He said, yeah, I'll do that because you've given a tabir. If I'm saved, I will do that. As soon as they go, Jibreel comes down. He says, Yusuf, what did you do? He says, what happened? He says, Allah is very upset. He says, Allah is very upset. What did I do? I'm in the prison, I'm praying, I have not done anything wrong. In fact, I saved myself from one of the most vicious traps and entrapments that could catch a person. What have I done wrong? He says, Allah is upset with you. He says, for what? He says, how did you seek the help of a person when you knew your God is with you? How did you seek his help? He says, what did I do? I didn't ask him to release me. He said, didn't you ask him to tell to the Khalifa to remember that Yusuf is here? Did you not trust your God is with you? That God who can feed, and we got numerous rewards. He hit the ground, Jibreel. And he says, look down, what do you see? And he says, I see deep down I can see a black stone. He hits the black stone, it spreads apart. He says, what do you see? He says, I see a small little insect inside, a small worm. He says, what do you see in its mouth? He says, there's a small little grain. He says, that God who's not ignorant of this small little worm, a worm in the depths of the earth's crust, within a black stone, a small little worm, and he's able to put a grain into his mouth. You think he would be ghafil of you? How did you ask somebody's help when you were a Nabi and you had God with your side? God is very upset. Then he started, Nabi Yusuf realizes it. Then what happened? Look what Quran says. It says, فَلَبِثَ فِي السِّجْنِ بِبِضْعَ سِنِينَ. Having said that, Yusuf had to stay in the prison for several years. Riwayat says, God says, you turn to somebody else other than me to help you out? I don't like it. An ordinary person with an ordinary iman, I wouldn't have bothered. You are a Nabi of mine. This was not expected of you. Now you will stay there. Riwayat tells us for 7 more years, Allah made sure he did not come out. 7 years. The same thing happens with Imam Kazim alayhi salam. لا يزال ينتقل من سجن إلى سجن. The last 4 years of his life, half of his life in prison, and every time he goes to the prison, the last 4 years he did not see the light of the day. He was constantly in prison. But every time you look at his munajat, he would say, God, I've always wanted isolation with you. You've given me this isolation. I love this more than the freedom. I get time to be with you alone. Keep keeping me in the prison, because that is giving me more time to be becoming manus with you. This is why we find the difference between a ma'soom that we call as an imam and a nabi who does tarkiyullah. But this is just for general. For academic, we've got numerous proofs. Numerous proofs. I can finish the whole lecture right now only in these two, ayat mubahala and ayat tathir, and I can tell it you can go away with absolute understanding that the imams are superior. But that's not our discussion. We've got academic proofs. But for kids and all, these are small little things that they can understand. वो कहता ना दर से कहो तो दीवार समझे. I'm saying for the kids, but even for elders, this is for you, even for you to understand. But having understood this, that our imams have a different rank as opposed to the Anbiya, which is very difficult for other sects to comprehend. How is it possible? Because उनके पास नहीं है ना. आप देखिए अहले तसन्नुन के पास उनकी रिवायत कहाँ तक है? Their riwayat, their traditions, their shariat is only up to the 11th Hijri. जब रसूल खुदा चले गए. When Rasul Khuda passes away, their riwayats finish. There is no more revelation from God. There is no more guidance. Ours goes down till 260 Hijri. Up to the time of Shahadat of Imam Askari alayhi salam. That means they finished their riwayat from a Masoom in 11 Hijri. Our riwayats go to 260 Hijri. That means we've got 250 years of ahadith more than the Ahl Tasannun. And hence we have rulings that are in accordance with the Shariat, because Imamat is a continuation of Nubuwat, except that there is no Nabi after him, except there is no Shariat. But explanation to kar sakte hai na. Nayi Shariat nahi bana sakte hamara Imam. Lekin hamara Imam jo tashri to kar sakta hai na. Like we mentioned earlier in the first majlis, that al-mashu al-khuffain, उनके पास वो हदीस है. हमारा इमाम ने कहा खबरदार अगर जो है वो मस अलल खुफैन किया तो खालफ अल्लाह व खालफ रसूलहू. अल्लाह की मुखालफत और अल्लाह के रसूल की मुखालफत. उनके पास ये ज़ख़ीरा नहीं है. So our sources of hadith are fantastically vast as opposed to their sources. But anyway, that's gone. We want to come to something else. और ये इसी बात जो है वो अक़ायद में भी इसी तरह है. उनके पास 11 हिजरी तक जो हो सका वो हो सका, उसके बाद उनके पास कोई है ही नहीं, और फिर मजबूर होते कि वो जो है वो 4 इमामों के साथ जा सकें जो खुद मोहताज है सीखने के लिए। वो खुद उनके इमाम जो है हमारे छठे इमाम के शागिर्द रह चुके हैं। बट ये एक अजीब, it's an अजीब whimsical fact that the students are taken as leaders whereas the teacher is left aside. कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रही बात, but anyway we are not going into that, वो तो छठे इमाम की बात है। We are sticking to the 7th imam, और 7th इमाम के सिलसिले में एक आपके लिए एक जो है वो कज़िया आपसे बयान करना, one अक़ीदा, and that अक़ीदा you will identify with yourself very clearly and very easily, and that अक़ीदा is our love with respect to an imam. अब देखिए, जब हम कहते हैं ना इमाम ज़मान, ये इमाम ज़मान जो है that is with respect to our ज़मान, but every imam in his ज़मान is इमाम ज़मान। यानी इमाम रज़ा के टाइम पे that imam was इमाम ज़मान for the people of his time, Imam Sadiq in Medina for the people of Medina and the people around the world at that time was the imam ज़मान of his time. तो जब हम इमाम ज़माना कहते हैं अल्लाहुम्मा अज्जिल वलियकल फ़रज, जब हम दुआ पढ़ते, it is not only for the 12th imam. This could be recited by the people of the 6th imam at the time of 6th imam, क्योंकि हम क्या कहते हैं, हुज्जत इब्न हसन की एक से नाम आ गया, वरना हम क्या कहते हैं, परवरदिगार तुझे तेरे हुज्जत की हिफाजत फरमा, इमाम ज़माना की हिफाजत फरमा। इमाम ज़माना उनके ज़माने में वो खुद इमाम थे। This is applicable to everybody. तो जैसे हम कहते हैं कि it becomes more exacerbated in our time because the imam is not with us. And what is that issue? किसी को भी, if I were to ask now, what is one of the most important aims of yours with respect to Imam Zamana, what would it be? Oh, how I wish I could see the Imam. एक काश जो है इमाम ज़माना से मुलाकात हो सकी, है कि नहीं? अगर तो एक, if I were to ask you, what is one wish that you would with respect to the Imam, what would you say? I want to meet the Imam. And ये सिर्फ आपकी बात नहीं है, this is not just about you. Even the Maraji would want that. एक ज़ियारत हो जाए इमाम ज़माना की, एक ज़ियारत हो जाए। आप वाक़या सुनिए, जब उलमा के पास, मराजे के पास, हमारे मसलन अल्लामा हिल्ली को देखिए, जब उनको पता चलता है कि जो है मुलाकात होती है इमाम ज़माना की, उस वक्त पता नहीं चलता, they don't understand it at that time. But after Imam Zamana goes and they realize that it was Imam, they weep like kids. The Imam was in front of me and we could not recognize him. ये इतनी शिद्दत, the love that they've got, and each one of us has got. Everybody wants to meet the Imam. When you say Allahumma ajjil waliyakal faraj, oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of the 12th Imam. What is our intention? We want to see the Imam. We want to meet the Imam. We want to be part of his global revolution. We want to be part of his ansar. यही है ना हमारे पास। लेकिन आप एक सुन लीजिएगा, कितने लोग इमाम ज़मान से मिलते हैं? ओ इमाम ज़मान से मिलना बहुत मुश्किल है, हम तो दुआ करते रहेंगे, हम ये करेंगे, हम वो करेंगे। And people have done so many amal to meet इमाम ज़मान. कोई कामयाब होता है, कोई कामयाब नहीं होता है. You know what is the reason for कामयाबी and not कामयाबी? People meeting the imam and not imam. We've got a qaida and aqaid. I'm putting it very, very simply, watering it down. If a person acquires the eligibility and deservingness for some grace of Allah, it is wajib upon Allah and the Masumin to give him the grace. I'll repeat it again. If a person acquires the eligibility and the deservingness to get a grace from God, then that grace, it is wajib on Allah and the Masumin. They've imposed it upon themselves to give it. Because if a person becomes deserving and that grace is not given, this is kabih upon God and kabih upon the Masumin. And that is why our mutakallimin say, अगर इंसान इस्तेहकाक पैदा कर ले कि इमाम की ज़ियारत हासिल हो सके तो इमाम उसको ज़ियारत नसीब करेंगे. Imam will meet him. You don't have to go him. Imam will come to meet him. We don't have to go to meet the Imam. If a person becomes deserving of getting the grace of the ziyarat of Imam, he becomes deserving. Imam will come to meet him. We don't have to go to him. Because this is one of the kalam in Ilm al-Kalam. Given to us by whom? By the 7th Imam. ये रूल किसने बताया हमें? ऐसे तो सब मासूमीन में बताया है. लेकिन एक खास वाक़े के सिलसिले में मैं आपकी तरफ इशारा कर रहा हूँ. This is 7th Imam. क्योंकि विलादत का और इमाम डे का है ना, इमाम काज़िम अलैहिस्सलाम डे का, तो हम 7वें इमाम का जो वाक़ा लेंगे. One tradition given by the 7th Imam with regards to this, that if you become deserving, we will come to you. कौन सा वाक़ा है? देखिए बहुत ही जो है वो आपके सामने, I'm going to put it very, very succinctly, and then we can move forward and try to finish it off. Very, very succinctly. You've heard it so many times. If I just give you the name, you will understand. Bibi Shatita. नाम सुना ना बीबी शतीता का? वाक़ा भी सुना है. When you go to ziyarat of Imam Rida al-Islam in Mashhad, what do? You go to Neshapur. When you go to Neshapur, what do? You go to Kadamgah. जहाँ जो मौलाना एजाज से अपने footprints of the Imam came onto the stone. Yes, when he was doing wudu. उसके बाद what do? कुछ लोग जाते हैं खयाम के कब्र पर. That great shire. Some people go to बीबी शतीता. एक अजीब मकबरा बना दिया है. एक अजीब हरम बना दिया है कि नहीं? बीबी शतीता का नाम तो सुना, क्या मसला था? Everybody knows, but they know only one part. Most of the time, one part is mentioned, the khulus of Shatita. So very, very quickly, Shatita was in Nishapur. Imam was in Khurasan, in Iraq. At that time, so a person by the name of Abu Ja'far Khurasani brings the khums money from Nishapur, from Iran, to give it to Imam Kazim alayhi salam. Very quickly. He comes, at that time, Shatita was a very poor lady. She gives a very one coin. Others giving thousands. He says, what do I take one coin? She said, no, you give it. This is my khums, to the Imam. He comes to the Imam very quickly. I'm just brushing aside all the paraphernalia. He comes to the Imam. He gives the thousands of gold coins and silver coins given to him by the others. And he's about to leave. Imam says, oh, hold on, Abu Ja'far. There's something else missing. He says, what? He said, where is Shatita's coin? I want that coin. And he says, yeah, I've got it with me. He says, why didn't you give it to me? He says, I was feeling awkward in front of thousands of gold coins, one silver coin. Aapki shaan mein gustaki hai. But that is more dear to me than all these thousands of coins. Bring me the coin. Takes the coin, then very quickly, he gives him another 40 coins. He says, go and give it to Shatita. And give him a piece of cloth. Tell them this piece of cloth. First give the coins, 40 coins. He says, give the 40 coins to Shatita and tell her she will not stay more than 19 days alive after this money reaches her. So tell her to spend 16 and keep 24 for her tashiyya janaza. And I'm giving a piece of cloth that is going to be her kafan. This cloth has been made from cotton that has been sown and grown from our own fields and made into a cloth by my own sister. This is the piece of cloth that we had kept for ourselves for as kafan. A part of it I'm cutting and giving it to you to give it to Shatita. This will be her kafan. Imam मासूम अपनी ज़रात से रूई को बोते हैं. उसके बाद जो रूई आती है, घर वाले जो है उसको धागा बनाते, कफन बनाते, कपड़ा बनाते, और कपड़े में से एक हिस्सा जो शतीता को देते. आप सोचिए भी क्या मकाम है. आप समझिए मेरी बात. Goes to Shatita, whatever happens. And he says, tell Shatita, when she dies, I will come to recite her namaz janaza. Abu Ja'far Khurasani says, Yabna Rasulullah, you are in Iraq. I am in Iran. Will you come for the janaza? He says, I will come for the janaza. Abhi bahut jaldi ye mu'jiza ka, let's rush through. Exactly what happens. 19 days later, she spends 16 months, keeps 24. She passes away. The 24, the gold coins are used for her tashi and tajheez of janaza. And now the body is lying. And we say, namaz pad lijiye, namaz mayyat. Abu Ja'far says, no. Imam says he's going to come. Din dhalta gaya. Now it's very close to become Maghrib. Din jo hai wo khatam hone wala hai. Kehte nahi ja sakte. Imam ne kaha aane wala hai. Imam himself says he's going to come. We cannot pray. But as it was close, getting close to Sunday, they see somebody coming. What do they see? Seventh Imam is there. Imam comes very quickly, without all the paraphernalia. Imam recites namaz, says, now you can bury her, I'm going. He finishes the namaz on Bibi Shatita. He's about to turn away. As he's about to turn away, Abu Ja'far is doing, you say in Farsi, badraka. You escorting just to say Khudafiz up to the edge of the city. As he reaches the edge of the city and is about to go, Imam turns to him and says, Ya Abu Ja'far, Qul lahum, tell these people, Inni. This is that sentence I'm telling you. He says, tell them, Qul lahum, Inni وَمَنْ يَجْرِي مَجْرَايَ مِنَ الْأَئِمَّةِ. I and the Imams like me, لَا بُدَّ لَنَا حُضُورَ الْجَنَائِزِكُمْ. People like me and the Imams like me, it is wajib on us. We've made it wajib on ourselves. We have made it compulsory on ourselves. That means we become multazim, that we will do this. What? حُضُورَنَا لِجَنَائِزِكُمْ. That we will come and participate in your janaza. La budda lana. We've made it incumbent upon ourselves. Allah ne nahi bajaya. Shariat nahi hai. Humne khud ne apne aap par. We've made it upon ourselves. That if one of our Shias dies, aynama kunt. Wherever you may be, we will come and take part in your janazah. The condition is, wattaqullaha fi anfusikum. Be muttaqi. If you are our real Shias, if you really love us, if you really follow God, if you follow all the ahkam of God, then understand wherever in the universe you may be, we will come and recite your namaz-e-janazah. Just as we came from Iraq to Iran to recite the namaz-e-janazah for Bibi Shatita. This is the ruling that is there. That if a person becomes deserving of a grace, Allah will not stop that grace because it is qabih. The Ma'asumeen will not stop that grace because it is qabih. Meaning what? Meaning that all of these actions that we do just to get the attention of the imams, and we say we want to meet the imams, Imam says you're making a mistake. You're going into a lot of trouble for doing things just to meet me. All that you need to do is, you need to be muttaqi. You need to follow the rulings of God. And this is not theory. This is the reality. You want me to prove it now? Which has happened recently? Our marja Ayatollah Sistani. Ayatollah Sistani is his father, said Muhammad Baqir Sistani. This is the ma'roof. आपको पता है उसके सिलसिले में? आप सुन चुके? If you know, then I don't need to tell you. Do you know? नहीं? तो सुनिए. Ayatollah Sistani's father, Ayatollah Sayyid Muhammad Baqir Sistani. Ayatollah Sistani, our marja. He's still alive. अभी की बात है. उनके father एक मर्तबा जो है वो कहते हैं कि एक मर्तबा जो है it became, I just wanted to meet the imam. And I needed to, it was just too overwhelming. मुझे imam से मिलना है. He says, I'm going to do a 40-day awrad, a wird, so that I can get to meet the imam. He says, I made a niyat. 40 days, I will, every Shab-e Jummah, in 40 mosques, I will pass the whole night in ibadat, with the niyat that I want to meet the imam of the time. He said, I started it. ये खुद आयतुल्लाह सीस्तानी के वालिद साहब का ये मशहूर वाक़या है. I'm surprised you didn't know about it. You don't know about it. ये मारूफ है, ईरान में सब जानते हैं. तो एक मर्तबा जो है वो कहता है, started off with 40. First masjid Shab-e Jummah, second masjid Shab-e Jummah, third masjid Shab-e Jummah. These 40 days. He said 39th Shab-e Jummah finished. On the 40th Shab-e Jummah, पूरी रात भर जो है हो चुका. बस अब जो है वो अनकरीब नमाज सुबह का वक्त है. And all of a sudden, I felt as if somebody was pulling me out of the mosque. एक ऐसी ताकत मुझे खींचे, I was unable to stop myself. वो कहते हैं ना विलायत तकवीनी, आप समझ रहे ना मेरी बात? कहते एक मर्तबा एक ऐसा, there was such a force that was pulling me out of the masjid. It pulled me out and it was taking me towards a certain house. एक बहुत ही dilapidated house, बहुत ही पुराना house, बहुत ही छोटा house. दरवाजा जैसे गया मैं तो it felt as if somebody was pulling me inside. जैसे गया, I pushed the door was open. I saw it was a very small house, extremely small house, 2 rooms, one main room and one internal room. जैसे मैंने, as soon as I entered, I saw the front room, खाली. But in the internal room, I'm seeing it is filled with light. एक नूरानियत. I felt as if I'm being pulled over there. ये कभी pulling का situation, I will tell you. Those who've been to Iran and those who've been with people who know Ilmul Jafar. I have spoken to somebody who knows Ilmul Jafar, who knew Ilmul Jafar. He's very old now. One Sayyid in Mashhad. He said, अभी क्या बताएं अभी, it's not, we don't have enough time to explain everything. But ये कहता ना कि जब पुल करता है, ये इंसान रोक नहीं सकता, क्योंकि ये इंसान की कुदरत में नहीं है कि रोक सके. ताछेर से कि इमाम जो है पुकारते हो, इमाम जब बुलाए वो तो जो है फिर हर चीज़ पर जो है वो कुदरत रखते हैं. परवरदिगार आलम की मशीयत से. So he says, I was pulled to that room. I entered into the room and I see 2 things. First thing, I see that entire room is illuminated by the light emanating from a person, which I immediately realized it's Imam Zaman. And second, I saw Imam is sitting and next to the Imam there is a janaza. And you could make out that it's a lady's janaza. Again, leaving out all the paraphernalia. एक मर्तबा मेरी आंखों से आंसू जा रही, मौला आप कितने 40 हफ्तों से जो है मैं आपसे मुलाकात कर. Bekhud, fuzul ka, you're doing all this. Said Muhammad Baqir, there was no need for you to do all this. 40 weeks you're going from masjid to masjid to masjid the whole night. Look, be like this lady. I have come to visit her. You are spending 40 nights to come and see me. Look at the difference. You have spent 40 nights and 40 masajid from night to morning doing ibadah just to see me. Whereas I have come to see this lady. अब ये सुन चुके हैं? अब इसके पस मंजर सुनिए. The reason. In 1936, on January 8, something took place in Iran that had reverberations right in the region. This was the time of Raza Shah. So Pahlavi Khandan ke 2 bade jo awakhir in the recent times, there were 2 kings, 2 leaders. One is Shah of Iran. His name was Muhammad Raza Shah. Muhammad Raza Pahlavi, which we call the Shah of Iran, just at the time of revolution, 1979. His father Raza Khan, after he became the Shah, he was called Raza Shah Pahlavi. From 1925 to 1941, he was the ruler of Iran from 1941 to 1971, and his son Muhammad Raza, which we call the Shah of Iran. अब बात हो रही है उसके बाप की, शाह ऑफ ईरान के बाप की, रजा खान. In 1925 की बात हो रही. In 1935 आप समझ लीजिए, he went to Turkey. He was also like the Shah of Iran, बहुत modern thinking. We know to modernize Iran. I want to keep it in terms with the West. Falan. He happened to go to Turkey. लेकिन इतनी हिम्मत उसमें नहीं हुई. He was not getting the strength to bring about large-scale changes in Iran. But he said, let me go to Turkey. Turkey at that time had gone into a massive modernization program. Courtesy Kemal Ataturk. You know Kemal Ataturk? Have you heard? You go outside, you'll see big posters in Turkey. The father of modern Turkey, Kemal Ataturk. This was that man, Na'udhu Billah Khabith, who changed Turkey from a Muslim country into a so-called Muslim country. Today, because of Kemal Ataturk, the mosques have become a tourist attraction than places of worship. You will find more tourists in the mosque than Musallin because of this Kemal Ataturk. What did he do? He removed the hijab. He removed the state religion to be compulsorily implemented. He says no more hijab. He removed the English, the Arabic language calligraphy, replaced it with Gregorian calendar, replaced Turkey with the Gregorian, with the English alphabets. Everything that was required for him to appear as a modern state in the eyes of the West, he did it. आज देखिए आप जो है वो टर्की की हालत की, नाम का जो है मुसलमान स्टेट है, otherwise there's nothing religion about it. Courtesy Kemal Ataturk. Man sanna sunnatan sayyatan falahu. जिसने गलत सुन्नत की बुनियाद गुजार की उसका जज़ा उसको मिलेगा. He changed the whole thing. अभी आप जाके देखिए हिजाब का क्या है. जाइए इस्तांबुल एयरपोर्ट पर, you'll know. Forget about coming out. Just be in transit. Then you know what we're talking about. He went there. He saw. He was so impressed. Who? Raza Shah. 1935. This is the country I want Iran to be. This is late 1935. He comes to Iran. January 8, 1936, he passes the first rule, which he passes a rule in prohibition of hijab from today, and it's called in Iran as kashful hijab. Prohibition of hijab. 8th of January 1936, the Shah passes the ruling, no more hijab. And he followed that up with a huge force, with the police force, to such an extent that the shopkeepers were not allowed to sell goods to ladies with hijab. Be chadari ha, they would write inside this thing in the shops. Be chadari ha jinsne mi furushim. Those who wear chadar, we will not sell grocery items. He would keep police forces outside in the streets. Ladies with chadar, they will pull it out. They would push, chadar was very prevalent at that time. He would pull them out. We've got traditional historical proofs. All those chadars will be dumped into the gutters that would be flowing. The gutters would be filled with chadars because it will be pulled out. अभी आपको देखिए वक्त नहीं है, वरना आयतुल्लाह उज़्मा शहाबुद्दीन मराशी का वाक़या है. In this case, one police head goes into the haram, and in the haram he pulls out the chadar of a lady. And Ayatollah Marashi gets angry and he slaps that police officer. Ek bahut badi dastan hai some other time. But this was the time. In 1935 he goes there to Turkey. 1936 he comes up. This is the same situation it's talking about. Us waqt jo hai, the ladies were not wanting to wear hijab because they were under complete subjugation. The males would force their wives, Baba, take it out, I'm going to be arrested. The ladies would not get jobs, schools were a problem, anybody with hijab were a problem. It was an ajib situation. Ajaga is there, he was an Iranian, he knows. He would have heard from his father if he was at the time when this took place. Ek ajib halat. Now coming back to the issue, I've not moved away from my situation, from the topic. This person comes, Ayatollah Sistani's father comes. Imam says, what are you doing, Sayyid Muhammad Baqir? 40 nights in the masajid, in 40 weeks, the whole night till morning you're doing just to see me. All that you needed to be like this lady, and I would have come to see you. Says, Aga, Mawla, what has she done? I'm an alim, I know the fiqh, I know masail, I do my ibadah. But what is it that she's done that has captivated your heart that you have come to see her? That she has become deserving of my ziyarat, so I'm come to give her my ziyarat. Acha, theek hai, aapne bata diya, masala kya hai? What has she done that she's become so much? Well, you know that kashful hijab that was going out? Yes. Do you know that ladies, when they would go out, the chadar would be taken out? Says yes. When the chadar is taken out for that small little period of time, before somebody comes and puts another chadar or she rushes home, that lady is now in front of non-mahram without hijab? He says yes. This lady, in order to protect herself from being hijabi and the chadar from being taken out, not because it was haram, but because if her chadar were to come out, it would affect me and it would hurt me. For 7 years, she did not come out of this 2-room house. 7 years she did not step out of this house, only so that I do not get hurt. How is it that one of my Shia ladies' hijab is gone? To protect me from feeling hurt for 7 years in this 2-room, dilapidated house, she did not come out. She deserved my ziyarat. Now that she's gone in this dunya, I'm coming over here. In akhirat, what happens is with the Ahlul Bayt. Samajh rahe aap kya masla hai? This is where things come. When we say, Allahumma ajil li waliyikal faraj, Allah, let the imams come, we want to do the ziyarat of imam, Allahumma arzuqni ziyarat al-Husayn. Many times it's just लखलका ज़बान, हाँ ये कोई दिल से नहीं निकलती ये बात. दिल से अगर जो होती ना, ये आपसे नहीं कह रहे. I'm telling myself. So you've not seen the imam. If you've not seen the imam, then this is the reason. You are not deserving for the imam to show you. You can spend your entire life every week going into masjid, but imam will not show his face to you because you're not deserving for it. तो ये हमें सीखना है. जो सातवें इमाम ने बता के गए कि हम खुद तुम्हारी नमाज जनाजा पढ़ने आएंगे, शर्त ये फत्तकुल्लाह फी अनफुसिकुम, अल्लाह के तकवा इख्तियार करो, अल्लाह का तकवा इख्तियार करो, हम खुद तुम्हारे मिलने आएंगे. आप समझ चुके मेरी बात क्या है? बस हम दुआ करते परवरदिगार आलम के पास. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us tawfiq. That just as Imam Zamana told the father of Ayatollah Sistani, that don't waste your time, be of a person of a caliber that we come to see you. We pray to Allah, by the wasila, by the lutf, by the karam of Imam Zamana, may He grant us tawfiq to we become of a person of a caliber that the Imam decides to grace us with his appearance in ziyarat. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by the wasila of Imam Kazim alayhi salam that may all those who are mareed, may they be granted quick and expedited and full recovery.